Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. It has been a while. Maybe someday I'll get into why that is, but today isn't the day for that because I see this as a really big week for Cardano with the presentation we're expecting from the Lace team at the Bitcoin conference this week, as well as a really big date with the Bitcoin ETF, that is the Grayscale Trust that they submitted earlier this year. There's a big date this week, so we'll get into that and maybe a few other bits throughout this video, but I will keep this one fairly short and try and get back into more regular content. Give the video a like, comment questions or anything below, give it a share, subscribe if you're new. All of that really helps, especially since I haven't been getting these out regularly. Let's jump into it. Okay, so this week we are expecting a presentation from Input Output or from the Lace team over at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas. So it has been talked about, and some of the recent interviews, Charles has kind of touched on the topic, but we are expecting this. I think it is tomorrow is the date that we should see something. Once we hear it, I will get a video out. So that'll be tomorrow or maybe the next day. So the Bitcoin DeFi is closer than you think, and we're revealing at a special lunch and learn session at the Bitcoin conference. So this is, they're having a side event that this is going to be, I suppose, shown at. I'm not sure if there's going to be something in the main conference, a presentation on it either. But Charles, in a recent interview with Lily, he talked about where there will be a button within Lace where you can just basically click it to turn it on for Bitcoin DeFi. And behind that, that will be powered on Cardano. So when people are interacting with it as a Bitcoin wallet, anything that requires, so lending and borrowing, interest on your assets, that all happens through Cardano. I'm looking forward to seeing the implementation of it and how they're going to do it. We have heard a lot of talk about Bitcoin OS and what they're going to bring to Cardano. There's been some things recently, some questions raised on the technology that they are going to be using for this, how viable it is, and there's some open-ended questions. So that's something I'll follow up at some point. But from what I've heard, the input-output, the way that they will be using, or the way they will be implementing Bitcoin DeFi on Cardano, that's going to be different. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And look, eventually there will be multiple ways to do this, and everyone will choose their own preference of how it happens. The most important thing is security and the UX for the end user. You want to make this as simple as possible for people to be able to use this, interact with DeFi, so that they can use the Bitcoin that they have to interact with the various different DeFi protocols that are on Cardano. Something else that was good that I've seen in the last few days, or actually this was in an interview with Big Pay, where the new CEO of Emurgo, there was a lot of interesting stuff in that, and I would have higher hopes for Emurgo now, having watched that and some of the things that he talked about and where he's looking to push it. But they did say that they would be redelegating the Genesis ADA into smaller independent drep. So this is with Cardano Governance, where they had all of the Genesis ADA that they still had left. I don't think we know how much they have sold or anything like that over the years, but whatever they had left was delegated to their own drep. So with Yoroi and Emurgo, and then they were using that to vote. So what they have committed to is taking that ADA out and delegating that to independent dreps. And you can see here that they will be outside of the top 20 to support. So they're really trying to distribute the voting power to other dreps. And it's great to see that this has been done. So it says here, today we confirm the completion of removing their Genesis ADA from their voting dreps. And in place of that, they are going to delegate that. So that hasn't been done yet. I'm not sure what the process is, but it's good to see that they are spreading that out. And the Cardano Foundation have also adopted a similar strategy. And what they have done is they have delegated to 7 different dreps. They've delegated 20 million ADA that they have. So they're really distributing the ADA voting power that they have too. So they've chosen 7. I think when I read through it, now the article at the minute, the site looks to be down, but when you go through it, you will be able to see there are 7 different dreps, all with different views, and they are from the community. So it's great to see they are distributing that voting power, that it's not centralized, because there's always this thing that, yes, Cardano has decentralized governance now, but if you look at the big players, it's all concentrated. So that is really starting to get pushed out to the edges, which is good overall for Cardano. So there is some other good news this week, and I seen this article first and then it got me to go diving into it. So Grayscale's Cardano ADA ETF deadline for decision this week. So Cardanians, put this out, the SEC must approve, deny or delay this by Thursday, May 29th. So it took me a little bit of time, but when I went off digging, I found the original article, and I will leave a link to this below for anyone who wants to have a look at it. So you can read through it here, and the most important part of it is the Commission finds it appropriate to designate a longer period. So this is when they came out originally and acknowledged the application for the what is the full name of it? The trust, the Grayscale Cardano Trust, and this is where they would trade ADA. And it says here that initially they acknowledged it and then they extended it by 45 days, which is generally what they do. So the next date that they have to make a comment on this is May 29th, 2025. So that is by Thursday this week. They have to come out and either extend it by a final 45 days or they could approve or deny it. So it's going to be an interesting week either way. If you look at PAUL Markets, you go over here, Cardano ETF in 2025. Over the last, what's this? So over the month of May, we've started to climb up and it's nearly at its highest point now. So there was 70% chance back there, 69. And at the minute, it's at 71% chance of the ETF being approved. Now again, this is just people betting on what they think, but if you start looking through the history of these types of votes, then they're generally a decent indication of what's actually happening, because this is people putting their own funds on the line to put votes into this. So keep an eye on it this week. Again, like the latest stuff and the Bitcoin presentation, I will get something out by the end of the week to talk about this, and hopefully we will have a yes on the ETF, but if we don't, it could be an extension. We'll see where it sits at the end of the week. And before we close it out, let's take a quick look at TapTools. So I used to do videos on Monday looking at the overall markets. Maybe we'll get back into them, but a very quick high-level overview of it here. Look, volumes are fairly low across Cardano and across a lot of other ecosystems right now. A lot of the attention is really in around Bitcoin, and that's why it's so important to have easy access for Bitcoin holders to be able to use blockchains like Cardano for DeFi. If you look here, Strike Finance, which is a team that has been doing really well over the last while, you can see in the last 7 days, up 64%. They have the top volume, just under 1 million ADA in the last 24 hours. If you go down through the volume, you can see World Mobile, 714,000, SNEC, IAG, Agent T, MinSwap, and LendFi just over 100,000. So apart from that, they're the only assets on Cardano with over 100,000 volume, over 100,000 ADA worth of volume in the last 24 hours. So we really do need to see these numbers coming up to make it a better trading experience. Again, look at liquidity. These assets, they're okay, but some of the other assets, as you start to go down, you'll see when I look at one of the other screens in a minute that some of the ones that have big price movements only have a tiny bit of liquidity, so it really doesn't take much to move the markets. If you look at the number of traders or the number of trades, Strike, 770 trades. Some new meme coin, don't know anything about it, 458. But if you look at the liquidity, 7,008 worth of liquidity. So them kind of assets, it really doesn't take much to move the price fairly significantly. WMTX up then, SNEC after that. Another new meme coin, actually no, 24 days ago, not one I have heard about. And then you have IAG. If you look at Strike, so Strike, just in case people haven't heard of them, it's not one I have dived too deeply into, so I'm not saying anything about the token, but it is a team that has built and delivered something. So when you go over to their site now, they have launched their perpetuals. It's definitely something I need to dive deeper into, but they have launched perpetuals on Cardano. So ADA USD, I think, is the only pair so far. And right now, liquidity available. There isn't really much liquidity. Maybe I'll put in some test positions later on just to test it out and see how it's going and do a deep dive into it and maybe come back with some tutorials or something like that on it then. But perpetuals, for anyone not familiar, it is where you can go long or you can go short on the market, and you can use leverage. So you can see here up to 10x leverage. And when I dive a bit deeper myself into this, see exactly what's on offer, I will probably come back with a tutorial video then. So that's kind of it. Actually, if I go to market cap just to see how things look here, we look at the overall market cap. SNEC still in at number 1, market cap well on top at number 1, then WMTX, AGIX. I don't think they do anything on Cardano, so I don't really count them. Then you have IAG, Liquid, Min, Shen, Hosky, Indy, and Kopi rounding out the top 10. So that's about it for today. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate any interaction with the video because, as I say, because I haven't been doing these regularly, it does really push the videos and channel down, and I will come back to a lot more regular content going forward. If there's specific areas you'd like me to start diving into, do let me know in the comments section down below. Thanks for watching, guys. I do appreciate it. Talk to you soon.